In today's video, I'm going to share 3 tips to make your dance footage look more dynamic. Coming right up. Hey dancers, welcome to Dance Tech with JHsu, the channel where dancers become more proficient and efficient in the digital space. How do you make your footage look more interesting? Unless you're filming for documentation purposes like in rehearsal so you can practice with it later, making your video look more unique for social media or dance films will help it stand out more, be more memorable, and keep your audience engaged. Here are 3 things you can try next time you film something. Now, keep in mind, these are all subjective. Everyone will have their different preferences, but try these out and let me know how it goes. And before we start, let me know in the comments, what is the one biggest question you have when it comes to filming dance? To help illustrate some of these points, I met up with my friends Jill and Emily to film a short video, so you're gonna see clips of our process throughout this and then the final product at the end. So a huge thank you to Jill and Emily for all their help with this. Number 1, show a perspective the audience doesn't normally see. I first heard this from Lindsay Adler, who's a very well-known photographer based in New York City, and this has stuck with me ever since. Basically, don't shoot from eye level and from far away, because everyone sees the world from that perspective, so when you film from that perspective, it doesn't look unique. Personally, filming from a lower angle is my favorite thing to do, hands down, when it comes to dance. Lower angles will make your subject look bigger and more powerful, so that's why for photo shoots you'll often see me lying on my stomach to get as close to the ground as possible. Even if you don't want to get that close to the ground, going from eye level to waist level will make a huge difference. Now, shooting from a higher perspective will also change things. Generally, a higher perspective will make your subject look smaller and less powerful, but if you're trying to capture a large group or a formation, shooting from higher up will make that easier. Just think about dance competitions and when you see that front row view versus up in the balconies. Or try and get closer to your subject. Again, we're all used to watching dance from theater seats or standing around them in a circle, so we're used to seeing dance far away. If you're able to get closer to your subjects, it will feel more immersive, like you're there with the dancers. There are lots of other ways to show a unique perspective, and that's where your creativity comes into play. You can use things to frame the subject, how you light the subject, how you edit your footage. All those things will change the perspective. But shooting from down low and getting close to the dancer are my go-to techniques when it comes to filming dance. Number 2, use your environment. If you're shooting on location, look for things that can help direct focus. For example, get rid of busy or distracting backgrounds. Now, a lot of times this means people, and you have no control over that. But sometimes there's a random object that's distracting that you can either pick up and move, or get out of frame by simply shifting a little bit to the side. Does your costuming complement your environment? This takes a little bit more pre-production planning, but you wanna make sure the colors and patterns that your subjects are wearing go well with the environment. For example, if I'm filming in a forest, I might want to avoid greens and browns so my subjects don't blend in with the background. Or if you're filming somewhere with a lot of graffiti, maybe have your subjects wear solid colors instead of patterns so they don't get lost among all the different things going on in the background. And finally, look for leading lines. These are things in your environment that help direct your audience's focus. That could be pathways, door frames, markings on the ground, etc. Number 3, add camera movement. Now, it depends on every project, but generally, I am not a fan of long static shots. I think as dancers, we're drawn to movement, so why not include the camera in your choreography? Speaking of choreography, if you decide to add camera movement, make sure it fits the dance. If it's really fast, intricate choreography, then you want less camera movement so you can still see what's happening. If it's bigger, slower movement, then generally there's more room for camera movement. I'm definitely going to make a more in-depth video on camera movement in the future, and I will link in the cards above once it's made, but here are a few suggestions. First, let me just say you don't have to buy fancy equipment for this. Lots of cameras nowadays, especially smartphones, have built-in image stabilization that will help. Now, regardless of what you're using, you should always follow these tips. First, use your plie, like all your teachers tell you, and for filmmakers, they often call this the ninja walk. And what that does, it takes out that bounce you get in footage sometimes. You should keep your elbows bent but away from your body. And if you are walking, keep your pace consistent. If you keep slowing down and or speeding up, then it's gonna look really jerky and it's gonna be harder to keep smooth. And finally, adding a little bit of weight to your camera will help take out those small jitters you get sometimes when you're hand holding your camera. Now this doesn't have to be a lot of weight, but it could be maybe a tripod attached to your camera, some very light wrist weights. When I first started doing more video, I did a shoot with my friend Jenelle in DC, and I used a cheap $30 tripod with ankle weights attached to the bottom. And it looked so janky, but it kind of worked. Here's some footage from a vlog back when I just started vlogging, so if you want to check out the full thing, I'll put it in the cards up above. But here's kind of what it looked like with me using it, and here's some footage to show you that it really is how you use your equipment, not the equipment you're using. Depending on the situation you're in, you can also add sliding movements by putting your camera on a towel, or if you're in a studio or somewhere with a flat surface, grab a wheelie chair. And of course, you can always get fancy and use a gimbal or a Steadicam. If you're filming with your phone, there are actually a lot of very affordable phone gimbals out. For example, I personally use the DJI Osmo Mobile 3, and I love it. Okay, so now we're gonna add some movement. Because my camera doesn't have any kind of image stabilization, even walking handheld with a Ninja Walk, things like that, you'll still see a lot of shake. So this is my favorite go-to toy when it comes to adding really smooth cinematic movement. There are also a lot of phone gimbals, things like that. So we're gonna use this now. If you do end up using a gimbal or a Steadicam, make sure you're still using your Ninja Walk. And a bonus tip, use B-roll before your choreography starts. B-roll is any supplementary footage used to help tell your story. Think of A-roll as your primary footage, or in this case your choreography, and B-roll as your secondary or supplementary footage. That could be shots of your environment, footage of your subject walking to the location, anything to give context to why your subject is there or how they got there. To recap, show a unique perspective, use your environment, add camera movement, and use B-roll. So now let's see Jill's choreography before and then after to see how implementing these tips changed how it looks.
If the time is right,
That's it for this video, everyone. I hope you found it helpful. If you film anything using these tips, I would love to see it. Leave a link in the comments below or email it to me at jhsudancetech@gmail.com. Make sure you like this video, hit the subscribe button so you know when new videos come out, and I'll see you next time. 5, 6, 7, 8.